بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه وبعد. This is a new chapter that we will be studying in a book. It's called Bulugh Al Maram. And in my way here to the class, I explained to Omar and Yusuf and Khalid what Bulugh Al Maram means. Sisters, by the way, you can come in here in the back if you guys want, or turn on the light because some of you use books. But if you guys want to come here, you're more than welcome. There's chairs if you want to sit on the chairs as well. So any one of the three that I explained to them for my kids, remember what's Bulugh Al Maram means? Yes? No. Omar? You need to come here where I see you, you and Yunus. Yeah, Omar comes next to Ammar and Yunus to your dad. Here. So what's Bulugh Al Maram? Bulugh Al Maram, just in case somebody knew, and maybe I never said that. Bulugh Al Maram, it means, you remember? Bulugh Al Maram, it means that the ultimate goal, your dream of something. So what's the book is a collections of the hadith talking about the rules of Islam. What the Prophet ﷺ said about the rules and the Islamic rulings. So he said, your ultimate dream of a book to collect all this ahadith, to explain to you what the Prophet ﷺ said about the Islamic rulings, your dream book is this book. That's Bulugh Al Maram. في أحاديث الأحكام. And you see, he praising his book. He's saying that's the ultimate goal that can ever be written in this concept. What's the concept? Is the hadith that speak about the Islamic rulings. And I decide to move farther, all the way to the end, to start or to teach this chapter. And when we finish, we go back to the Salah, inshallah ta'ala. It's called a chapter, the last chapter in the book, it's called Al-Kitab Al-Jami', the book Al-Jami'. Al-Jami', it means the one which is collect so many different things. So this chapter collects so many different topics. And in my opinion, Al-Jami', yes, most of the scholars who explain this chapter said that Al-Jami', it means the one who collect different chapters because it's not one unified concept. For example, you have a chapter about Salah, everything about Salah, chapter about Zakah. But this chapter has many different subjects. So he called it Al-Jami' because it's a collection of various topics. But in my opinion, could be not the reason he called it Al-Jami', the collections or the gathering. But Al-Jami' also means the principles, the foundations, the most important thing to be collected. And maybe that's what he meant. He meant that this chapter, Al-Jami', it means it's a very comprehensive. Because if you understand this chapter, you will have a very good understanding of the religion, of the nature of the Prophet ﷺ's da'wah. Because remember, the Prophet ﷺ said, إِنَّمَا بُعِثْتُ لِأُتَمِّمَ مَكَارِمَ الْأَخْلَاقِ. That the whole purpose of the Prophet ﷺ to be sent is to teach us how to behave properly. What's the whole goal of Islam? The whole goal of Islam to teach us to behave properly, to behave in an appropriate way, in the best manners. And that's the whole goal of Islam. If you notice, every aspect in Islam is really focused on that concept, the concept of behaving, the concept of mannerism, ethics. That's a very important concept in Islam. That's why Ibn al-Mubarak rahimahullah once said, إِنَّ أَحَادِيثَ الْأَدَبِ ذَهَبَتْ بِثُلْثَيِ الْإِسْلَامِ. He said, I believe that the ahadith talking about mannerism and etiquettes and behaving, good behavior, covered or took 2/3 of the ahadith. 2/3 of the hadith of the Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam focus on this concept. So maybe that's the reason he called it Bab al-Jami'. Anyway, and he ended his book, which is talk about Islamic ruling, with this chapter or this ahadith, because to tell you, it's not enough for a Muslim to pray, to fast, to give zakat, but doesn't know how to talk, doesn't know what to say when they enter the masjid and when they leave the masjid. It's not acceptable that day and night pass by and you don't know what to say in the morning and what to say in the night. I don't believe that's acceptable for a Muslim. And unfortunately, it's a common thing that many of us today, if you ask an average person, what are the appropriate thing to say when you start the food, when you end the food? You know, what if you forget in the middle of the eating what to say? Bismillah in the beginning, what to say in the middle? You know, what to say after you finish your witr? What to say in sujood? What to say in ruku'? How to, what's the proper etiquette of giving salam, of sneezing, and so many things like this. So this is basically, in my opinion, this is a very important complementary to all the rules and fiqh rules related to the act of worship. Is also, as we deal with Allah, we need certain adab and etiquettes to follow. There is certain adab and etiquettes when we deal with people. Because the previous chapters has a lot of mannerism and etiquettes as well. When he talked about, for example, going to the bathroom, he talked about the etiquettes of going to the bathroom. What the proper etiquettes, that you cover yourself, you don't be najis, impure. But here he talked about the etiquettes of dealing with people, with other human beings. When you interact with people around you, Muslim and non-Muslims, a family member or distance from you, how should you do? That's why he talked about a chapter about al-adab, good manners, az-zuhd, which is basically disattachment to the dunya. Az-zuhd, it means that you're not so greedy and not so focused about the dunya. Can anybody tell me what this has to do with etiquette, with dealing with people? How az-zuhd, being ascetic, az-zuhd, it means that your focus is not the dunya. How this impact your behavior with others? You're not greedy, you don't cheat, you don't need to lie, you need to basically to deceive someone. Also, when you're focused on the akhirah, you're willing to forgive easily. I found az-zuhad fi dunya أكثر الناس مغفرة تغافرة. I found that the people who they're focused on the akhirah, they really don't pick on every fight. They let things go because there is a bigger goal that they're concerned. Also, I want to tell you, people have so much respect for you when people know that you're not looking at what they have in their hands. People respect you so much when they know that you're not looking at what they have in their hand. You not want what they have. That's why Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, if you have zuhd in what people have in their hands, people will love you. People will respect you. قال ازهد ما في أيدي الناس يحبك الناس. Have zuhd. Don't be, focused or greedy, or don't be your main interest is what people have. Oh, you have this food. Oh, you have this toy. You have this game. You have this car. You have this business. You have this money. You have this. You have that. If you take this out of your mind and you start, that's not your focus. I don't care. May Allah bless you. People start loving you. People don't like the people who look at what they have. Also, he talked about the etiquettes of dhikr, because if you want to talk to Allah, how you talk to Allah? When you make dua and dhikr. That's right, when you pray to Allah. Tabi Allah, when I want to talk to you, what do he do? Quran, very good. That's Allah's speech to us. So when Allah speaks to us, He revealed the Quran. And when we want to speak to Allah, what? We just raise our hand or pray, make dua, adhkar. So there is certain etiquette. So this etiquette of how to talk and conversate and deal with people and deal with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as well. And he started with the chapter of the adab, okay? And ended with the chapter of dhikr, to tell you that it is unacceptable what we have today. Unfortunately, in the reality of the Muslim today, that we have this strange split. Okay? That I am in the masjid, in the salah, very good. But when it comes to dealing with people, I'm not as good as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants me to be. I follow the Sharia. Somebody, you find him, mashallah, Allahu Akbar, he put his hand here, he do this, he do all the details. But when it comes to talking, he lies. When it comes to business transactions, he cheats. When it comes to people's money, he doesn't care. Which is so strange. Where is this basically, where is the impact, how this religion is split in your mind and basically was divided into just a rituals, an act of worship that you do, but it doesn't have any impact on the way you behave and the way you deal with people. It is sad that today in Muslim country, I grow up as in overseas. I grow up to be told, be like British when it comes to what? Time. When British person tell you 8 o'clock, it means 8 o'clock. But when they tell you Muslim Standard Time, it means 1 hour late. Arab Standard Time, Pakistani Standard Time, all this joke we have. But it is sad. It is very sad that where is this? We were the model of mannerism and etiquette. Wallahi, if you read Walt Durant, when he wrote his book, The History of Civilization, Tarikh al-Hadara, which is one of the earliest books I ever purchased for non-Muslims. Okay, actually the first book ever I bought for someone who's not Muslim was this book. It was 28 volumes. My dad went crazy when I bought it. He said, "Would you gonna open library here in my house, a public library?" 28 volumes. It's a very big book, or something like that in 20s. And it talks about the history of humanity and the civilization. And the only reason I bought this book, because the chapter he was talking about Muslims in Europe. And he was talking about how Muslims in Spain and east and southeast or southwest of France and the east side of Europe, the Ottomans, how they are amazing. The way they dress, the way they walk, the way they talk, the way they eat is so highly, a proper etiquette. Today, when I was young, also my father wanted me to learn languages. So he took me to learn French, and I was about 9 years old or 7 years old. You know what they teach you in French language? They teach you, I got nothing of it. Don't worry. Just the only thing I know, excusez-moi, and je suis étudiant. I am students. That's the only thing I know. So, and attention. So I have a couple of words still stuck in my mind. But you know what? The most important thing in teaching French was not the French language. Can anybody guess what? Yes. Part of it. Teaching you French etiquettes. Actually, I remember my father telling me, make sure that you pick this up. And not only my father, rahimahullah, but many people, they're impressed by that. Wow, French etiquettes, how to eat, how to do this, how to do that. Come on, man. How's that? Yani, it is so interesting. It's like me today when I tell my children and my students what the ulama used to say. When Imam al-Shafi'i, rahimahullah, he was 9 years old or 10 years old when his mother said, I'm going to send you to Imam Malik to learn under Imam Malik. She told him, learn from Malik's adab before ilm. You learn from Malik's the etiquettes, the proper manners, before you learn from him the ilm, the knowledge, the hadith. That's how it used to be. Today they teach you, learn the French etiquette before the French language. It is sad how things shifted. It is sad that today our Muslim students and Muslim kids and Muslims, adult and Muslim businessmen and Muslim businesswomen and leaders are not role models. And you're gonna be role models not by only how good aqeedah you have, how good faith you have. You'll be a good role model by how good you behave. That's how the role model is. And Allah subhanahu, and that's what bring people. That's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in the Quran to Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, وَلَوْ كُنْتَ فَضًّا غَلِيظَ الْقَلْبِ لَمْ فَضُّوا مِنْ حَوْلِكَ يعني وَحَتَّى وَأَنْتَ رَسُولُ اللَّهِ. Yani even when he is a messenger of Allah, if Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam did not have a good manners, people will leave him. If Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam was mean and and tough and aggressive, people will leave him. It doesn't matter what ilm you have, I don't care. Very few people will be attracted to you because of what you have. Anyway, here, Al-Imam Ibn Hajar rahimahullah ta'ala, he starts with the chapter about the adab, the appropriate etiquettes of dealing with people at large. Then he followed with the chapter of Babul Birri was Sila, the etiquettes of dealing with parents and family. Okay? Imam Muslim did the opposite. If you ever read Sahih Muslim, Imam Muslim said the chapter of al-birr was-sila, the chapter of dealing with parents and relatives, then he followed with the adab, which is dealing with the general public. Can you tell me why Muslim did this? What do you think the logic behind that? Why someone start, which one you think is the best? Yes, Khalid. So the first people that you deal with is the closest to you with your family. So if you don't know how to deal with your family properly, how would you expect you to deal with people who are far away from you? Okay? So that's why Muslims start with this, because family have more right upon you also than the general public. That's right. Al-Ahl, family, have more right over you. So that's why you start with the family. Then you go to the general Muslims and the etiquettes of dealing with them. Why you think Ibn Hajar starts with the opposite? The general public, then he goes to the family. Why do you think would he do that? What do you think his logic is? Huh? General public, it's not about easy or difficult. But it's not the end. There's 6. That's number 2. It's basically, it's two logic. You start with the general, then specific. So you go from general to specific to focus, to show the importance of the specific. So for example, I said, Muslim community in Houston are a great community, but you guys in Clear Lake are the best. I go from general to specific, that's right, to show you the importance. So he said, the dealing with people, then with the parents, to show you the importance of the parents. You can make the opposite. You start with the specific because that's the focus point, then you go to the general or the bigger circle. Make sense? Both ways acceptable. It's just a different way of looking at it. And maybe also, maybe that's me, I have another opinion about it. I don't know what you guys think. قد يكون السبب والله أعلم that behaving with parents is something, it's natural. It's something most of people pick up, especially in the old days. You know, if you don't know how to talk to your parents, they will teach you how to talk to them. you didn't need hadith to teach you how to be respectful to your mom. You didn't need a book to tell you that. So that's right. That's why he started with the general public before the parents, because he was thinking maybe the parents and knowing the parents is something you will pick on your own. So it's not as important and as missing as dealing with the general public. Also because you love your parents so much, and when you love some family so much, you will naturally start being good to them. But that's not the case with the general public. So that's why he started with them, because he wants you to have that respect that you have for the family to have for the public. That's my opinion why he started with this chapter, which is the general one versus the specific. I don't know if that makes sense to you. This book, which is Al-Jami', has 131 hadith, okay, which is inshallah going to be covered during our classes. In 131 hadith. It has 6 chapters, okay? The first one, Al-Adab, the etiquettes of dealing with people. Then al-birr was-silah, the etiquettes and the being dutiful and good to your parents and relatives. Az-zuhd wal-wara', being disattached to the dunya. Okay? I'll tell you, disattachment to the dunya is test based on your age, based on what you have in your hand. Somebody told me, don't worry, Shaykh, everybody in this gathering, zahid. We don't have any money, alhamdulillah. And if you squeeze my, if you look at, if I can tell you, if I put my hand in Yusuf's pocket, it will come as clean as, as you can think. Nothing in it. Wow, I'm not attached to any, I don't have any. But it's not about this. Might be your test is, for example, someone who's so attached to his hair, so attached to his clothes, so attached to his games, right? So attached to certain toys or game, or so attached to, even a relationship with someone, and so attached to that. It's a worldly matter. So attached to money, maybe food. It's very hard for me to be disattached to food. I'm trying. Man, believe me if I tell you, I always tell food no, but food don't listen. So the zuhd, but you know what? Whenever you have that zuhd, is not my main focus. It's not my main priority. There is something more important. When salat comes, when ibadah comes, when a choice between the dunya and akhirah comes, I know which one to choose. And then after that, he talked about the opposite. A'udhu billah. He said, warning you from bad manners. Then instead of ending with a negative point, he ended with a positive one. He said, Imbabu at-targhibi fi makarim al-akhlaq. That encouraging you to care for the best of manners. By the way, manners different than etiquettes. Etiquettes lead to good manners. Manner is the behavior in general, your mannerism, okay? But etiquettes is the certain etiquettes that you do, and certain rules and certain set of rules that you should follow in certain areas in your life. And that adopting this will lead to be a person of good manners. Also, then he ended with what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, how to deal with Allah when you pray, when you make dua and dhikr. And also I do believe he ended with this dhikr, bab dua dhikr, for a reason, which is because that's how he say, Assalamu alaikum, goodbye. And nothing he can leave you to protect you after he told you all the ruling of Islam, which is sometimes hard to remember all of them, to practice all of them. But there's one thing can protect you forever, which is a dua with dhikr. And that's why it's part of al-ulama rahimahumullah way of writing. Ibn al-Bukhari, when he ended his dua with his book with dhikr, with the hadith about dhikr. And that's something common in the way the ulama rahimahullah write their books. So the first chapter, which is the chapter of al-adab, etiquette, it has 15 hadith only. How many hadith? 15 hadith. Can anybody tell me what's the word adab means? I always want you guys, especially those who don't speak Arabic, there is certain terminologies in Islam you will never appreciate it until you know what it means in Arabic. And I can tell you, what I am going to tell you right now, I can tell you with full confidence, not a single one who speaks Arabic right now in this masjid knows what the word adab really means in Arabic language. No. Where the root of the word adab came from? Anybody knows? إيش معنى كلمة أدب؟ من وين جاءت؟ What's adab came from? What that word, the root, because every word has a root. What's the real root of this word? Believe it or not, the word adab comes from the word ma'dubah. What's ma'dubah? Connect to the word ma'dubah. Which ma'dubah? Feast, when you invite people to eat. Etiquettes. Actually, the word adab linguistically, it means inviting. الأدب هو الدعوة أن تدعو إنسان يعني تؤدبه ولذلك يقال المأدبة لأن يدعى إليها الناس والآدب هو الداعي. In Arabic language, al-adib is the person who invites people. طيب, what's al-adab? Al-adab, it means something that will invite others. So that's why the Arab use this word to describe the best of etiquettes and the best of manners, because the best way of behaving, they call it good adab, because it invites people to love you, invites people to like you, invites people to be connected to you. So the more you have adab, the more you will be connected, the more you will invite others to think positive of you. You attract people to you. It's like a magnet. And that's a very unique meaning to the word. Okay? And as Al-Imām Ibn Hajar rahimahullah himself said when he explained the chapter of Al-Adab in Sahih Al-Bukhari, قال الأدب استعمال ما يحمد قولا وفعلا. It referred to anything that is good you can say or you can do. And some scholars said al-adab basically is good manners. It is to do what is good and to abstain from what is bad. Ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah قال والأدب اجتماع خصال الخير. Al-adab, it means it's to invite to you, is to bring to you all the good qualities. So al-adab, it means to adopt, to invite. That means adab is something can be earned. That's right, because you invite it to you. You earn it, you learn it. You basically bring it in. You start practicing. Okay? كما يقال اجتمع الناس إذا دعوا إلى الشيء. Anyway, sometimes the word adab, okay, and the scholars use the word adab to refer to the proper etiquette, like the adab of eating, the proper etiquette of eating. You don't eat while your mouth open. You don't eat, okay, too much. You don't fill your mouth with food. You eat with 3 fingers. You know, you don't like take a. Okay, in the old days, they used their hands. Now today, how can this be resemble in modern days way of eating? In the old days, they said, don't fill your hand with food. Today we say, don't fill the spoon with food. You have the spoon overfilled and the rice falling off, you know? Or you take that big spoon, you know, the serving spoon, that's your spoon. I saw once an exercise, speaking of serving a spoon. It's a nice exercise. I saw in a workshop. So he gave 2 of the people attendees 2 big spoons like this. Okay, he gave like 3 sets of people, every couple. He gave each one of them big spoons like this, and he said, "Try to eat with it." He put on the top of it like a cherry or like strawberry. He said, "Eat it." People like, and man, they tried everything. But the rule is you're not allowed to bend your hand or something like that. I don't forget now what's the condition. After everybody failed, he said, "Okay, I can show you. It's so easy." He took the spoon and he fed the other person, and the other person fed him. He said, sometimes we forgot that you can achieve what you want, but with a little bit of help of others. It was a good exercise. I'll never forget that. Anyway. So going back to the point, sometimes like this, the adab, okay? Like there is an adab of drinking. And Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, and that's what we're going to learn this, basically, hopefully, some of these things. The adab of drinking. You don't, like some people when they drink, Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam when he drinks, he will not have the whole thing at one sip, like this. لا يجع. But when he basically, it's like when you take a sip by straw. كان النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم يمص الماء. That's how he drink it. You know, he doesn't like open his mouth and just do the whole entire thing at once. There is adab for walking, adab for going to sleep. And the ulama rahimahullah wrote books about that. Sometimes the ulama said this adab and they means recommended act. Okay? And sometimes they say adab, it means something you've been encouraged to do. It doesn't matter, recommended or must. For example, the adab and the etiquettes of going to the bathroom. You must clean yourself after you finish urinating, for example. You must, but still that's adab. So adab is not only restricted to what's recommended, but also can means wajib. Also, the word adab sometimes refer to at-ta'deeb, which it means reprimanding someone. قال فإنه آدب لأهل البيت. Even the hadith is weak, but it is, he said this is, well, you know, it's like the stick, or it will make people behave properly. I don't know, I have something hanging on my kitchen, it says, it's like it's called attitude adjuster. It's a spanker. Okay, it's attitude. I never used it in my life. Alhamdulillah. You know, but it is an attitude adjuster. That ta'deeb, okay? I'm not saying you do it, but just a joke more than anything else. Also, the word adab, if somebody familiar with that, very commonly used to refer to literature, Arabic literature, like poetry, good story, good speech. You know, to be a skillful speaker. You know how to give khutbah. That's good, they call this adab. How to write, good writing. And that's why Ibn Qutayba rahimahullah wrote a book, it's called Adabul Katib, the adab of writers. He not talk about etiquette, he talk about how to write, how to be a good writer, how to be a good poet, and so forth. And this use for the word adab to refer to literature, okay, it's a new use, never known in the time of the Prophet ﷺ or the Sahaba. It came later on, min muwalladat al-lugha. They call it, it's a newborn word. They call it muwallad, yani it's something invented, okay? That's why they call the person who does good speech, he's very eloquent speaker or write very well, they call him adib. Not because he has a good manner. Actually, most of the poets, especially in some area in Islam, like in Abbasi time and stuff like that, they have no adab at all. Ulama rahimahullah wrote many books about the concept of adab and etiquettes. Sometimes it's part of their books. Almost every books of hadith, there is a chapter about adab. Bukhari, Muslim, you name it. Tirmidhi, Nasa'i, Ibn Majah. And also, in books of Aqidah, Ibn Taymiyyah, Al-Aqidah Al-Wasatiyah talked about the adab, the etiquettes of dealing with others. Also the books of hadith, like collection of fiqh hadith, like Ibn Hajar here. Also the books of fiqh, every chapter in the books of fiqh, regular books of fiqh, there is inside every chapter certain ahadith about adab. So when you talk about the rules in fiqh in relation to using the bathroom, there is always a chapter about the etiquettes. Marriage, the etiquettes. Hajj, the etiquettes. You know, and purification wudu, the etiquettes, not to waste water, not to this, not to do this. Even when we talk about ruling, al-qada, like being a judge, the etiquettes of the judge, and so forth. But some ulama even wrote a whole entire book about the concept of etiquettes. Like what? Adabu ad-dunya wad-din, min ajmal ma kutib. One of the best books that I enjoyed. Al-Mawardi rahimahullah wrote a book, it's called the Adab, the etiquettes of the dunya and the deen. Also Bahjatul Majalis, an unmatched book by Ibn Abdul Barr, very small. Al-Adab al-Shar'iyya, Ibn Miflih rahimahullah. And it's a very book, 3 thick volumes. Ghida'ul al-Albab, Sharh Manzumat al-Adab. This is the most famous text that we have ever about mannerism and etiquettes. Ibn Abdul Qawi. It's not a common name. Ibn Abdul Qawi. Abdul Qawi. We say Abdullah, Abdul Rahman, but Abdul Qawi is very. How many persons you ever met his name Abdul Qawi? Al Qawi, it means the strongest, the ever strongest, which is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, one of his names. And explained in details by a Hanbali faqih from Jerusalem. His name As-Safarini rahimahullah ta'ala. Also, Ibn Hazm has a book called Mudawat al-Siyar, and it was translated to English. It's also an amazing book. Some ulama even wrote a book specifically about etiquettes, but in certain areas. Like, for example, the etiquettes of as-sami' wal-mutakallim fi adab al-alim wal-muta'allim. The etiquettes of the learner of knowledge and the teacher of the knowledge. The one who writes the hadith. Adab al-imla' lis-sam'ani, for example. Sometimes it's a book, the adab of futya, the etiquettes of giving fatwa. The etiquettes of eating, lil-aqfahasi. The etiquettes of children, how to deal with children, lil-Haythami rahimahullah. Etiquettes of debates, Shanqiti wrote a book. Etiquettes of business transactions, how to sell, how to buy. Etiquettes of dialogue. Etiquettes of marriage, weddings, the wedding nights, and the etiquettes in relation to that night. The etiquettes of treating orphaned. The etiquettes of the doctors, believe it or not. All these books written by Muslim scholars for hundreds of years ago about certain topics in the etiquette. So it's a very well-documented knowledge. I want to share with you something said by a Yemeni scholar. I want you to pay attention to it. This Yemeni scholar is named Abdul Rahman al-Muallimi. هو ذهبي العصر بلا نزاع. He's like the Imam al-Dhahabi of our time. Okay? He died, 100 years ago, less than that. He's an amazing scholar. He printed a book, it's called Al-Adab al-Mufrad al-Bukhari. Al-Adab al-Mufrad al-Bukhari. Anybody knows this book? What this book means? Al-Adab al-Mufrad. It means al-Bukhari said, أفردت الأدب بكتاب غير الصحيح. He said, al-Bukhari rahimahullah, I wrote a book about adab, etiquettes and manners, and I separated it from my book, which is Sahih al-Bukhari, the collection of Sahih al-Bukhari. Why? Because he believed that this concept deserved a book by itself. That's why he wrote Al-Adab al-Mufrad. Because he believed that this concept is so important that it should not be part of my book. It should be a book by itself. And he wrote a book that's unmatched. Unbelievable book. So Al-Muallimi al-Yamani, when he authenticated the book and he basically published it, he wrote in a very beautiful introduction. And I want to quote for you something he said that really resonated with me for a good reasons. And I hope it will do the same with you. He said, لقد أكثر العارفون بالإسلام المخلصون. The sincere Muslims realize how Muslims today are so weak, are so down, are so divided, are so behind, munhattin. Okay, the Muslim world. He said, and the Muslim in general. He said, and the reason for that, it is because they left Islam. They're Muslim by name, but they don't practice Islam. Islam has no real impact in their life. And the reason Islam is not a reality in their life for 3 reasons. Listen carefully. Why the Muslims don't practice Islam? Why Islam is not a reality in their life? For 3 reasons. Number 1, التباس ما ليس بالدين بالدين. Because people practice things, they think it is Islam, but it's not Islam. It's culture. Or it is bid'ah. It is bid'ah. There is a French, since I speak about French today, a French historian said that I visited the Muslim world. Okay? About what? 200, 300 years ago? Okay? He said, I visited and I traveled from Aleppo. What is Aleppo? Syria. To Baghdad. Okay? And in the way, there were eclipses. There what? Eclipse of the moon. So all the Muslims came out in the cities that I was going through and I witnessed. And whenever eclipse, the Muslim will go out with pans and pots, and spoons and plates. Then they start hitting the pots and the pans and the plates and making noise everywhere. And I said to them, why? Why Muslims do that when eclipse happen? They said, because the moon and sun are fighting one another. And we are worried if they are fighting one another, one win, so either we will never see daylight the rest of our life, or we will never see night in the rest of our life. It depends who's going to win. And he starts saying, and how ignorant those Muslims are, what kind of religion they have, and he attacking Muslims. He's not lying. He said what he saw, and he said what people told him why they're doing this for. But with a little bit of research, you will know that this has a story. Where this came from? First of all, when there is eclipse, what should we do as a Muslim? Go pray. How we ended up from praying to hitting pots and pans, making noise. Have you ever heard of the Mughal, Holako, the famous Mughal emperor who came and he wiped out Baghdad? He killed 2 million people in Baghdad in few days. He was an unbelievable murderer. He came from where? From Middle Asia. It's a nation, the Mughal Empire. They came and they wiped out, they were not Muslims, they wiped out the Muslim world, Afghanistan, Pakistan, India, all this area, Iran, all the way to Baghdad, and he continued all the way to Syria, and he was defeated in Palestine right before he reached Egypt, because that was the biggest stronghold at that time left to destroy. Okay? What this man, when he arrived to Baghdad, he captured a scholar. He's not a Muslim Sunni scholar. Ismuh al-Tusi. Nasir al-Din al-Tusi is a Shia scholar. So Nasir al-Din al-Tusi, okay, what he did, he used to, he'll know astrology. So he knows how to calculate the days and the moons and the stars and the seasons. He's very good. And Holako don't believe in that. And he's so anti this. So when he heard that this man knows that, he said, either you prove me that this science is true or I'm going to kill you. Because I heard that you're teaching it. So he said, I can prove for you. He said, what? He said, in this day there will be eclipse in the moon. I calculated that. He said, listen, I'll put you in jail. If the eclipse didn't happen, you're dead. I'll make you eclipsed. I'll clip your head, And guess what? The day came and the eclipse took place. It was a good calculation. But what happened? Holako, the general, was drunk and asleep. And no one dared to wake him up. No one what? Dared to wake him up. So Tusi said, did he see it? They said, no, he's asleep. Wake him up. He said, you're crazy? Nobody can wake him up. He will kill me if I wake him up. You have to do something. And all those people are pagans worshiper. So Tusi, he told them, you know what? You see the moon disappeared. They said, yes. What will happen? He said, if you don't go out right now making noise with whatever you have, the moon will never come back to you. Will disappear and the sun will defeat the moon, and the moon will never come back for the rest of its life. For the rest of your life. So what to do? Because you predicted that. He said what you need to do, you make noise so the moon get excited in the fight. So they went out with the pots and pans and they start heading. And actually that's where this practice happened. That's about 300 years before that French scholar 400 years before that French historian visited the Muslim world. Guess what? All this, why he did that? Because he wanted the general to wake up. So actually he did wake up because of all this noise happening around him in the streets and everywhere. So what happening? They said the clubs. He said, oh, so this man is right. And after that, Tusi became so close to the general of Halako. And he helped him to kill the Sunni actually in Baghdad later on. And he helped him in the, not Sunni, but the Muslims in general in Baghdad. And that's the reason he became too close to the ruler of the Mughals. A lot of people don't know the story behind how they became too close to each other. So anyway, going back to the point, see, so people after generation thought that this is part of the deen, which is not part of the deen. So many innovations. So Mu'allim said, number one, people do things from religion, it's not from religion, it's innovations. People teach you things which is not from the Islam, not from the Sunnah, and you think it is the Sunnah. That day, for example, somebody was telling me, is it Sunnah, Shaykh, that, for example, that every time you make dua, okay, you have to kiss your fingers and you kiss your eyes. Like those. No, it's not. So people made up stuff. Number two, قال ضعف اليقين بما هو من الدين. يا سلام. So first, you practice things you think are from religion, it's not. Second, is that what is from the religion, you don't really truly believe in it. Your faith is weak. And the third, he said, عدم العمل بأحكام الدين. ضعف العمل. That the third one is, even if you know it's true, you don't practice. And he went down, and he talked about this. Then he said in the end, what's this the point? He said, and I do believe, Mu'allim say, that learning the etiquettes of Muhammad ﷺ, when it comes to the proper etiquettes of salah, of siyam, of traveling, of interacting, of sleeping, of walking, of eating, of drinking, of talking, of being silent, the etiquettes of every manners in life, if you care for it and you practice it, it will be the solution. And in my opinion, قال الدواء الوحيد, the only solution that will change the behavior of the Muslims. Because at that moment, they will breathe Islam. And they will practice Islam. And they will wake up practicing Islam. They go to bed practicing Islam. They walk and they think about Muhammad ﷺ as a real model when they eat, when they drink, when they go to the bathroom, when they go out, when they deal with people, when they are with their friends, when they play with each others, when they talk about others in their absence. They always think that Muhammad ﷺ in front of them, and that's the etiquette that I do. He said, if you do that, your whole life will change. And if your life change, the ummah will change. And he went into details, but I just want to tell you why, and that's why Ibn Hajar rahimahullah, he talked about also this book, Al-Adab al-Mufrad, and he said, and because of the importance of the subject, al-Bukhari wrote those. So, number one, etiquettes is what identify your identity as Muslim. I asked earlier my son, and my son told me, oh, etiquette, it's 1, 2, 3, and he quoted things that he heard from Shaykh Kamal. Okay? So, which is good thing. But I said to him, but it's good thing to say, oh, proper etiquette is to talk this way, to show this. But another level is to do this because Muhammad did this. That's another level. Another level that proper etiquette is not to eat too fast. But it's another level to say, I don't eat too fast because that's how the Prophet wanted me to do. That's another level of religiosity. It connects you more to Islam. And this became what we call Islamic culture, Islamic identity. It is in these etiquettes. You know, Islam has an identity. We call it Sibghat Allah. It is like a paint. Sibghat means like paint. This is entity. That's why you ask, what Islam has to do with my hair? How I cut my hair? What Islam has to do with my clothes? With the color of my shirt? With Islam to do with the length of my thobe? Islam with to do with covering my hair or not to cover my hair as a sister? Yes, Islam has to do with that. Actually, Islam is like a paint. It goes inside the body and it became part of its identity. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in the Quran, قُوا أَنفُسَكُمْ وَأَهْلِيكُمْ نَارًا. Protect your family from hellfire. Guess what Ali ibn Abi Talib said? He said, how you do that? قال علموهم وأدبوهم. By teaching them knowledge and teach them the proper etiquettes. Mujahid said, it means protect yourself and your family from hellfire. By what? By knowing the proper etiquettes of Islam and by having taqwa. That's why Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, teach your children, teach your family. حسن الأدب, حسن الخلق والأدب. Teach them good manners and etiquettes. So etiquettes is something that the Prophet ﷺ emphasis on it. Guys, Ibn al-Mubarak died in the 181 seconds. He said, I start seeking knowledge and I learned something. But I start learning adab, looking for people who really they behave very well. And he said, I have found very few. قال أكثر أهل الأدب قد بادوا. If that's 200 years after Islam, after Muhammad ﷺ time, what do you think now? The second reason why I want to encourage you to be committed, and I promise you it's not going to be ever long as this again, because the more you know about etiquettes, the more your heart will be full of life. And I mean by that, so attached to Allah. Just imagine كده, you wake up, the etiquette is to say, Alhamdulillah alladhi arqad. The etiquette is, in Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, when he wakes up, he does like this. He wiped the sleeping away, but make sure your hands are clean. Okay? The etiquette is to do this. When you go to the bathroom, enter the bathroom, before you eat, when you finish eating, when you talk with someone, when you go to work, when you ride your car, when you enter the masjid. Can you imagine your whole life there are certain etiquettes when you see the new moon, when you see the crescent? Can you imagine this life? How much you will be aware, how much you will be thinking about Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's why Yahya bin Mu'adh said, "Man ta'addaba bi adabillah ahabbahu Allah." If you follow these proper adab, Allah loves you, because that means you follow the religion and the thing that Allah wants to see you. And that's why ulama rahimahullah Ibn al-Qayyim mentioned in Maraj Salikin, he said one of the sign of acceptance that you will be guided to good etiquettes. 3, I think what identify us as a good human being is a good behavior, a good etiquettes. That would differentiate you between you and animals. It's not your muscles. It's not how smart you are. It's how well behaved you are. How well mannered you are. I said something, a poetry that I love. It says, لا تعجبنك أثواب على الرجل دع عنك أثوابه وانظر إلى الأدب فالعود لو لم تفح منه روائحه لم يفرق الناس بين العود والحطب. يا سلام. He said, don't look at how well dressed people are. And their clothes and look fancy. No. Look at their manners. Al-Oud, you know the bukhur, you know the pieces that we burn and bring good smell? You know what I'm talking about? That you basically, what do you call it? Incense. Okay? You put it and it will produce good smell. That's right? Have you seen it before? It's like a piece of wood. Okay, go outside to that ditch, but don't fall on the ditch. And break a piece of wood from any dead tree there and burn it and tell me how it smells. Bad or good? Bad. Small bad. It's going to be smoke. Okay? It's going to make you can't breathe. But they look the same. But what comes out of them distinguish the oud from the wood. What comes out of you, how you behave, how you talk, how well-mannered you are, will distinguish if you are a piece of wood worth nothing or your oud, which is very expensive. That's what makes the difference. So, here in Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Inna al-hadiy al-salih," and this in hadith in Sunan Abi Dawud, "was-samt wal-iqtisad juz min 25 juz min al-nubuwah." The Prophet said, "Al-hadiy al-salih," يعني al-hadiy al-salih, it means that your righteousness and السمت, your etiquettes, the way you carry yourself, والاقتصاد, that you're calm, you're wise, you're content. This all part of prophethood. It means this is part of the quality of prophets. That's why ulama rahimahullah used to say, we used to travel to Ibn Mas'ud to learn from his samt, from his look, from his behavior, not from his ilm. That's why Ibn Mubarak said we need manners more than knowledge. And number 4, why I think it's very important, because I do believe, so to distinguish you as a human being and to distinguish you as a good Muslims as well. Number 4, I do believe good etiquette is the only way to ensure that we will have a good relationship among us as family, among us as community and friends. If you don't know how to talk to each other, if we don't know how to listen to each other, if we don't know how to debate with each other, if we don't know how to disagree with each other, if we don't know how to love each other, to accommodate one another, we're never going to live as a good family. We're never going to live as a good community, as a good citizen of society. Number 5, I think that good etiquettes, knowing how to carry yourself in a proper way and to have these good, makes you loved. Make people love you. And if people love you, it gives you the opportunity to be a good da'iyah, calling people to what is good. Because believe me, people stay away from bad people. The Prophet ﷺ said, the worst of people in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's eyes, مَنْ تَرَكَهُ النَّاسُ اتِّقَاءَ شَرِّ فِي الْبُخَارِ. The people who avoided them because they are bad. That's the worst person in Allah's eyes. People just, don't invite some so-and-so to the group, to dinner. No, Jazakallah, don't invite him to dinner. Don't let him come to play with us. No. Don't invite him to the WhatsApp group. No. Keep him out. Some people, why did you invite her to my house? The worst of people, when people don't like. Why? Because their tongue is very sharp. If you look at how ulama rahimahullah were very attractive to you because of their manners. And everything you heard in lectures and khutbah, jumu'ah, and books and classes about good manners, it comes from good etiquettes. Do the proper etiquettes of Islam, you will end up with the good manners. Simple as this. So inshallah, this is just some introductions. And I want you to know that many of the Islamic etiquettes are Islamic etiquettes. They're not related to custom, culture. They don't change by time. This is the etiquette. It doesn't matter. 21st century or it is the 1st century in Islam. But some are related to culture. So I'm not going to pick on this. Like for example, I give you an example. Al-Imām Abu Hanifa rahimahullah said, I never stretch my feet towards my teacher's house, not teacher's face. Okay? My teacher's house. If his house this direction, I'll go this direction. Inside my house. Al-Muzani said, I never drink water in front of my teacher out of respect. But today, it might not consider a disrespect to drink water in front of your, oh my God. For me, you know what? I would never dare to eat before my father eat. I'm sure the older among us knows that. I would never eat before my father eat. That's ape. Today, I'm lucky if my kids leave something for me. And I don't blame my kids because they know if I eat, I'll finish everything. But it's just different. In old days, when you shake your hand, you kiss your dad's hands and head. In our culture, maybe that's not the way. So it's not, I'm not saying, you don't have Islamic etiquette because don't you kiss my hand. Okay, or you don't kiss my head. But it's a different culture. You should be, that's not what I care for. But what I care for is in Islam, it doesn't matter what it is. You can't raise your voice in front of your father. In Islam, you can't strike your father. No matter what it is, no matter how tall you are. That's an etiquette doesn't change. You can disobey your father. You cannot make your father go to bed angry at you. You can't do that. That's proper etiquette. So, also, I want you to know that this etiquette doesn't come just overnight. Al-Hasan al-Basri said, كان الرجل يخرج لتأديب نفسه السنتين ثم السنتين. He'd go 2 years, focus on nothing by learning etiquettes. And after a while, he goes back for another 2 years, only to focus on this. سفيان الثوري قال: كان أحدنا إذا أراد أن يكتب الحديث تأدب وتعبد قبل ذلك 20 سنة. Before you learn hadith, you spend 20 years doing nothing by learning how to pray properly, to make qiyam al-layl, all this kind of stuff, to know etiquettes, then you learn hadith. You know why? Because the 20 sana, it means from year 1 to year 20. So they start learning hadith in 21, 22, 20. But all this time, it should be invested in learning etiquettes. That's why it is so sad that we don't invest this anymore inside our homes. Kabir told me about a book. Just I'm so fascinated by the idea of the book. And he gave a presentation here about it, which is the collapsing parenting. And I think from what I understanding, it is that idea that I don't care anymore to teach my kids etiquettes. And I don't have a firm stance about it. That's not acceptable. That's not right. That's correct. Ibn al-Mubarak, who's everybody talk about adab, quote Ibn al-Mubarak. Ibn al-Mubarak said, طلبت الأدب 30 سنة وطلبت العلم 20 سنة. I spent 30 years teaching myself how to behave well, and 20 years to learn ilm. And finally, I'd say, is a point when it comes to etiquettes. Learning etiquettes, it needs a murabbi, a role model. Needs someone that you copy. Kids don't listen. Kids look and watch. People don't listen as much as they impact by what they see. That's why Ibrahim ibn Habib, he said, my father sent me, and he said, go to fuqaha, jurists, scholars, learn from them, but learn from their manners, their behavior, the way they behave, more than their knowledge. Because I do believe learning good behavior is more important than learning the knowledge. And I told you earlier what Imam Malik rahimahullah, his story with Imam Shafi rahimahullah. قال ابن القيم: أدب المرء عنوان سعادته وفلاحه. يا سلام. The more well-mannered, the more you behave good and you have good etiquettes, the more you're successful and the more you're happy. وقلة أدبه, and the less of adab you have, عنوان شقاوته وبواره. It's a sign of declining and losing. فما استجلب خير الدنيا والآخرة, the goodness of this life and next, بمثل الأدب. Nothing will bring to you the best of this dunya and the best of the akhirah like good manners and good behavior. ولا استجلب حرمانهما بمثل قلة الأدب. And nothing will make you lose both like bad manners. And that's actually the last point I have. Inshallah, next week, I promise you our class will never go beyond 40 minutes, inshallah ta'ala, from now on. But this is a long introduction. I don't want next week to have an introduction. From 35 minutes to 40 minutes maximum, inshallah ta'ala. And next week we will have the first hadith, inshallah ta'ala, حق المسلم على المسلم. Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.